Tony D and little Joan asleep in the sunbeam, along with guest dog. Whew, won't leave me alone today. Dog sitting is tough. And this is a bit of a hot take for the Gen Z. So smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Thanks for checking out the Pineys. Books 1 through 18 available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. And don't forget the t-shirts. Gen Z. Now, I'm Gen X. And I did this video about Carl Benjamin. It was a bit of a response video. And I got some comments. Many were very polite. Some were a bit crazy. I deleted them and banned them from my channel. And others were just whiny. Very whiny. Now, when you're doing stuff on the internet, the number one thing you have to keep in mind is you don't know who you're dealing with. I don't know any of these commenters. I don't think I recognized a single one of them for this Carl Benjamin response video. So they could all be Gen Z. None of them could be Gen Z. Some of them, they could all be Americans. None of them could be Americans. And everything in between. So, but there was a reoccurring theme that the algorithm seems to keep bringing up in the comments and in my Twitter feed, and that is Gen Z allegedly complaining about their lot in life, or at least some of the defenders of Fuentes, or more likely, some of the pretend defenders of Fuentes, defending him and saying, well, we have it so much tougher than you. We can't get a job or a house. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo. And one guy in particular was like, well, you have a job security and a stable home life, and you have dogs. Like, that's some sort of feat. It's pretty easy to own a dog, actually, if you've ever decided to get one. It's really not that hard to have a dog. People in apartments have dogs. I've seen homeless guys with dogs. So, like, that's not really a sign of status that I have a dog. But it was a weird sort of personal attack that annoys me, because the very people accusing you of, like, well, you're not addressing Carl's subjects at all, don't address my critique at all, simply because they make a bunch of personal attacks. So keeping in mind that some of these, or if not many of these, could be people just looking to stir the pot for other reasons, I'm sure a handful at least are Gen Zs who are caught up in this. So number one, you're being manipulated. It's the internet, and that's basically all it is now. It's just one endless parade of manipulation. So, while I don't think Nick Fuentes is a Fed necessarily, I do definitely 100% think he's a manipulator. He's either manipulating on behalf of someone, manipulating for himself to enrich himself, or something halfway in between, right? Like, maybe he's enriching himself to manipulate people a certain way, and while at the same time he's building some sort of career, I guess you could say. But this isn't about him. I don't really care about him. This is about the response, the attitude, and I'm seeing this on Twitter too, and again, many bots, that the idea is the algorithms pushing this idea that Gen Z young men are very angry because there's no opportunities for them. Now, one commenter in particular was like, well, you have everything. And he doesn't know anything about me. Because if he did, he would never, ever make that accusation. I've always been the poorest amongst my circle of peers. Because I'm in the arts, I'm a writer, I wrote comic books for many years. You don't make a lot of money in comic books, by the way, and you make even less money as a comic book writer as opposed to an artist. Um, the thing about it is, people in the past have their own trials and tribulations. Each era does. And it's all relative. So you can look back at the 80s and say, oh man, it was a glorious time. It wasn't a glorious time if you lived in it. It was just the time. And people then, they didn't know what it was like, the future would be. They only had the present and the past to look at. And when they looked at the past, and the upcoming future, they were like, oh man, these boomers, this would be Gen X, when am I going to get that kind of money and that kind of job? I'm saddled with all these crazy taxes and various things. There was also a lot of competition. So when I was trying to break into movies, there was a crazy amount of competition. I talked to one agent after I wrote a moonlighting spec script. I'm really dating myself there, but whatever. And I actually had an in through one of the producers to maybe get it looked at. And the agent said to me, and I told the agent that, and he said, listen, kid, they like to call you kid back then. I have currently, because it was a very popular show, Moonlighting, I currently have about 100 spec scripts for Moonlighting. And he goes, I'm one of maybe 3,000 agents in the Los Angeles area. Do the math. And I did. And that math is 300,000 to 1. So that was the kind of numbers you were dealing with. And that didn't even count the people who were writing spec scripts like me outside of Los Angeles, me being all the way in South Jersey. And the sheer staggering odds of breaking into television or movies or whatever. So it's always been tough for one reason or another, depending on what your goals are, what your dream job is, what you're going for. I had a friend, and his family was pretty religious, and his dad told him that when he turned 18, he wasn't going to give him any money for college. Now, he had really good grades, like I did, because my circle of friends, we were the nerds. And so he had no way to finance his college. Now, I was lucky. My parents financed my college. I had some scholarships, of course, but I couldn't pay for the college myself. So my family basically paid the rest of the money. Helped me get the loans, and then they ended up paying off most of the loan. I couldn't pay it off. My friend, however, he joined the Army. And so he did a tour, and, he went on the GI Bill and got some money there. And then he went to a university. I won't say which one. I don't want him known. But after, I guess a year, he kind of burned through all his money when he needed to make that money last for 4 years. And he ended up having to drop out of the university he was in. And he kind of fell in some hard times. He ended up going back home eventually. And, that was kind of a low tie for him. But he came through it. Eventually, he got back into the church. He met a nice girl, got his life together. I think he finished his degree. He definitely got a job. And then now he's got 5 kids. I think he's got 5 or 6 kids. He's probably working on grandkids at this point. And he's doing very well. He did very well for himself. And that's what happens. I mean, life is a series of ups and downs, dude. And sometimes those ups are in the beginning, and sometimes they're at the end or in between, and it's just a mixture of both. It's no different than any other generation. So, and I had a friend, he was in a very similar position to the friend I described, only he went right through school, got a great job, got married, had some kids, but then he got divorced. So, everybody, and And then it was a rough time for a few years, but then he came back. I had a rough time after my divorce. Everybody has a rough time after a divorce, usually. And so it's, the idea that, oh, you people had it easy, we're going to have it tough. No, everybody has it tough for one reason or another. And as James Lindsay points out on his Twitter, I mean, people in the past, people who got through the Depression, they had it really tough. Holy cow, did they have it tough. And I was just old enough to hear a little bit of that, at least through the Greatest Generation. And I knew some of those guys. I had an uncle who was, I think he was a D-Day. And, he never talked about it. Smoked like a chimney and eventually passed on. I mean, these people, everybody has their own deal. And the thing is, once you get older, once you hit 30, that's when things start to coalesce. When you hit 30, the first thing you realize is, like, damn, I'm 30. What the hell did I do? And like through your 20s, you're always thinking like, oh man, I got to do stuff. Like I got to accomplish things. I got to do things. I'm an adult now. I have to do things. And if you don't have all the things my goal was to be a movie star, and be a millionaire, but other people have different goals. They had, some people just want to have a family and a house, and they haven't done it in their 20s, and they despair. And then they hit 30, and then they go, well, and this is what happened to me. I was like, why am I complaining? I've been complaining all through my 20s, and it hasn't done me a damn bit of good. And you have that revelation and you realize, yeah, I shouldn't be complaining. And life is just sort of, you have to deal with the hand you're dealt. There's nothing else you can do. And everybody else is doing that. And you start to realize, looking around, yeah, none of these people know what they're doing either. A few of them got lucky in the beginning, and that happens. I went to college with Ricki Lake, if you remember her. I think she was there my freshman year, dropped out in like half a semester, and then went on to fame and fortune, at least for a while. She was lucky. It just happens. She fell into something, and it worked out for her. Other people, I mean, there was a girl in my high school class. She got murdered. Didn't work out for her. I mean, that sucks. So life is sort of random like that. You never know what's going to happen. There's some people who have a terrible hand. I mean, I can only imagine what that's like. I was very lucky. I had a very supportive family. There was one time I was really at a low point, and I was talking to my family. I said, I think I'm going to move into a trailer, because that was really the only thing I could afford at the time. And they just were like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean no? I don't think I could afford to live in anything else other than a trailer. A trailer sounds right for me. And they're like, no, we're gonna help you. And they did. Now you might not have that, and I feel bad if you don't have that sort of family support structure. But you might have it, and if you do have that, shut the F up. Because you have family support, and you're going to be fine. You might have a different kind of support. Like maybe your family just doesn't have that money, but maybe they have connections to get you a job or whatever. And when you're talking about jobs, man, it's taken me most of my life to finally find the job that really resonates with me. And again, I was trying to be like a movie star for a while, trying to make it in Hollywood, I wanted to be on Saturday Night Live, I wanted to write comedy, and I did some of that, and I made some inroads, but I couldn't make the crossover. And I figured out some things, and other things I didn't figure out until it was sort of too late. And then I made a go at comics, and I had some victories, but I wasn't on Easy Street or anything. Now I've sort of made my bed with the Pineys, and it's working out for me. Finally, Yeah, it only took me like 40 years. Um, and now it's great. Now it's great. But I couldn't get there without going through a lot of the other stuff. You know, I spent 15 years in the improv scene in Philadelphia, and it really helped my creativity. It helped my public speaking. I didn't make any money doing it. I thought I could at some points, but you know, and it took a long, and we made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes were made on the way on many different levels, but now I'm doing events and they're like nothing to me. It's nothing to me to do an event and talk about the Jersey Devil off the top of my head because I've done improv. And let me tell you something, I've screwed up my talk so many times. But because I have improv skills, I turn the mistake into a move, as we say in improv, and it always works out. It has always worked out. It's the same thing with the books. People say, how did you write so many books? And a lot of times I'm writing the book and I'm about a third or halfway through and I go, I don't know how I'm going to end this effing thing. And I just go, follow the process. Got to follow the process. And I follow the process and I keep thinking about it. And eventually, boom, it reveals itself to me. So what does this have to do with Gen Z and they have no money and no jobs? Well, first off, in case you missed the memo, our president is Donald Trump. And he's got trillions of dollars of investment coming into the United States. And what does that mean? Well, that means jobs. Now, you might not have that job today, but I promise you, within his first term or his final term as president, I'll say, there's going to be jobs all over the damn place. Between him exporting, deporting, exporting like they're goods, deporting illegal aliens by the truckload, and not having new illegal aliens pour into the country, there's going to be a lot of jobs. I mean, people have short effing memories. And again, I think a lot of the people who complain about this stuff are just stirring the pot because they've either been paid or they're bots or they're like guys who run 20 accounts and they put comments everywhere. Everybody in the comment of this Carl Benjamin video is like, oh, the bots in the room with you right now? Screw you, bots. But they are trying to stir the pot. They're trying to make you black-pilled on the future. Why? Well, there's lots of reasons. The most obvious one is the Chinese who are trying to black pill Americans because they want to stir trouble for us. I mean, every day the Chinese Communist Party is working hard to undermine America. I mean, they just are. One of the things they do is they push the narrative that, for instance, that white cops hunt down black people in America. Now, that's not even close to being true. Have there been some racist cops? Yeah, sure. There's been incidents. I'm not a huge fan of all the power we give the police. I think they should be largely focused on certain things and not be bothering people for a lot of other things. But you can't turn that into a policy. You can't suddenly go, oh my God, I have to believe that because I keep seeing it on the news and on the internet. All that stuff's BS. You can't 100% believe that. To some extent, you got to look with your own damn eyes. That's just not happening. And when you know for a fact, and I've seen the video where the Chinese media is pushing that narrative, and you know for a fact that, for instance, the Chinese, I think one estimate was 1.1 million spies in the West, then you have to take things with a grain of salt. You can't get completely black-pilled and believe everything you hear. The housing market is a perfect example. Why is it so hard to get a house for the current generation, allegedly? Well, right now, housing market's been pushed up through the sky, mostly artificially, I'll add. Why? Well, because the people who invested in real estate want to roll it over and make buku bucks. One of those big investors is BlackRock, and they've got literally billions of dollars in real estate. So they're more than happy to roll over a house for 300K when it's really worth probably about 120. My abode, which I live, I won't give you the salient details, but the price has been up in that range and way down below it over the course of my tenure here. So it goes up and down. The problem is, what's it really worth? Well, it's worth more money when you're jamming the country full of illegal aliens and other immigrants that probably shouldn't be here because there's not enough houses to go around. So when you pop that bubble and all those people get deported and no new people are coming in, eventually the housing market catches up to that. And lo and behold, there are now too many houses and not enough people to fill them. What do you think happens to the prices then? Oh, right. They go. And that's what's going to happen in the next few years. In the next few years, the price of houses are going to be extremely affordable. And in fact, I would predict in some parts of the country, there won't be enough people to fill these damn houses. There will literally be a people shortage, which is good for us in this current climate. See, when there's a worker shortage, like there was under Trump term 1, I was seeing hiring signs everywhere in South Jersey. They were offering hiring bonuses. They were offering higher wages. Wage growth was real. So there was plenty of jobs. Now, is it the job you want? I don't know. Depends on the job you want. Right now, there's a real shortage of, I'll say, plumbers, air conditioning guys, mechanics. Ford just announced they're trying to hire mechanics for $120K a year, and they can't find enough of them. So don't tell me, and people in the comments are like, oh, that's not true. One guy said, I'm a welder. I can't get a job. Well, I don't know. I don't know the welding market, but I'm pretty sure they need welders somewhere. So find out where they need them and move there. And if you're saying, well, I can't move, I deserve to live in the spot. Well, no one deserves much of anything. I mean, you deserve to live, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but you might have to work for it. And part of that working might mean either taking a lower wage and living a lower lifestyle. I had to do that to do what I wanted to do, or moving. For instance, in Alaska, they'll pay you to live there. Oh, yeah. In certain parts of it, definitely. They'll pay you to live in Alaska. And they need all kinds of skilled people in Alaska. It's kind of the last frontier in the United States. Now, you might say, well, I don't want to live in Alaska. Well, I don't know. Might be cool. I mean, if you really want a career in welding, let's say, and you want that house and you want those kids, well, you might have to make the sacrifice and move up to Alaska, at least for a time. I mean, maybe you could move up there for 10 years, build up your money, and come back. Because you can live pretty frugally in Alaska. You go to Alaska, you live there for 10 years as a welder, make all kinds of crazy money, build yourself up, and then build some more skills. And not for nothing. There's plenty of people who came out of college with skills that are useless. I have a communications degree, which is pretty useful if you're doing YouTube videos or radio or, again, presenting yourself. But pretty useless if you're trying to get a job locally. There's no more radio stations. They're pretty much all dried up. I mean, there's a handful left. But good luck getting a job. Good luck finding one that'll pay for that house and those kids. Same thing in television. A very competitive business, very insular. Get more competitive and insular every day as the TV market shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And movies? Ha ha ha! Have you seen movies lately? Yeah. I mean, it's very cliquish. Good luck getting a gig in movies. it's comics. Comics are done. They're toast. So it's tough everywhere, man. So if there are any actual Gen Zs in the comment sections of Carl's video, the video I did about Carl, um, it's tough. It's tough all over, dude. What do you want me to say? I didn't have it easy. I was lucky in some respects that I had family to keep me from going homeless. But I was prepared to move into a trailer or do what I had to do to survive. If I had to go, I mean, the worst job for me, and I never want to work this job. There's very few jobs I would never work, but the number one is gas station attendant. I don't like the smell of gas, but I'd do it if I had to. If that was the only job I could get just to survive, I'd do it. What else? What choice do I have? What am I gonna roll into a ball and die? It's just, and you might have to go through some tough times. We went through some tough times in the 70s. Gas shot up to 72 cents a gallon or higher. They had rationing lines for the gas. I mean, I was a kid, but it kind of sucked. I had to go with my mom to the gas station so she could fill up. And we weren't living high on the hog. it was a tough time. So just calm the F down. First off, calm down. So if I had to give you some advice, Gen Zers, I don't know what barriers are ahead for you. They could be very different. One of them could be AI, could be robots roaming the streets and trying to kill you. But whatever it is, you just suck it up and do the best you can. What else are you gonna do? You're gonna tear down society? I promise you that won't help your situation. I promise you, if you tear down society thinking you could redesign it in your 20s, you're gonna have a bad time. Most people my age or older in their 20s look back at their 20s and go, "Oh yeah, I was a kid. I was a kid. I didn't really know all that much." You have some ideas in your head, sure. It's not like you're a baby, but not every one of your ideas is going to be good. And in fact, you're going to hit my age and you're going to look back on that time and go, "Oh my God, I said some stupid ass things back when I was in my 20s on the internet." Yeah, and by the way, you might not want to say a lot of those things because the internet is forever. And you might want a job where that kind of stuff comes out to bite you in the ass. I kind of think in the future, hopefully, there's going to be a sort of maturing of that, in that people are going to look back on your internet history as a younger person and say, "Well, he was in his 20s. We've all said and done stupid stuff on the internet, and we mostly ignore that." Depending on your job. If it's politician, forget it. But yeah, I mean, and in terms of being older and making a mistake, there are plenty older people I've seen make mistakes too. They can. I think Carl here is kind of making a mistake. I mean, I understand his position. It's very tough. I like Carl. I think Carl's a cool guy. I just think he's in a really desperate sort of situation with his country right now, and desperate times calls for desperate measures. My worry is not him taking desperate measures in order to survive and allow his country to survive. My worry is downstream from that, if they'll be able to undo the desperate measures once the country does sort of get back on track, or that they would do, say, permanent damage to their system of government that they can never get back on track. And when I mean back on track, I mean living in a society that's, like some of the people in the comments said, stable, good, where people can feel good about themselves. But as always, hard men create easy times create soft men create hard times create hard men, etc., etc. That sort of, what do you call it, cycle is going to continue either way you look at it. So part of it's just the roll of the dice where you land in the cycle. for the boomers, they were lucky enough to land right in the sweet spot. And that worked out great for them. I don't begrudge it. They didn't have any control of when they were born. They lived at a time when things were great. Relatively speaking. And when I say great, I mean great. They had all sorts of problems too, even though financially it was one of the biggest positives in American history. But that could be coming again. I do believe that Trump's golden age is upon us. If you give him a damn chance and don't get manipulated into destroying MAGA before he's finished. Because you don't want to look back on this time and, have it be like, oh man, Trump was really on the right track. I'm so sorry I undermined him for the midterms. And I really rallied against Trump after a while. And I feel like now looking back on it, he was really on the right track. And now we're all effed up again. You don't want that. When you're talking about politics and policy, you got to do this in steps. You got to do this in increments. Now, some of it, in terms of Trump, is he's just undoing what Biden did. And Biden did not go incrementally, the Biden admin. They were pushing an agenda. But you have to be very careful. So, for instance, one of the big discussions is, we got to destroy the filibuster. Why haven't we destroyed the filibuster? Because that would solve all our problems. No, it wouldn't. It could very well doom us, because you could destroy the filibuster and still lose the midterm elections in some sort of bizarre landslide in which the Democrats take over, and now they stack the deck and, make things much, much worse to overturn back the other way. So, Gen Z, calm the F down. That's my biggest piece of advice. Look to the day when you turn 30 and realize nobody knows what the F they're doing. It took me a long time for that to sink in. Yeah, nobody knows what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but none of these other people do. And once I realized that, I also looked at their mistakes, which I often took as an attack on me or a personal slight, and I realized they're not trying to attack me. They're just stupid. A friend of mine accidentally said something very profound. He said, everybody's an ass. And it struck me that, yeah, everybody's an ass at one time or another. And so you never know. And again, I'll give you my positivity talk. Many years ago, this was right around in my 30s, mid-30s, I was bummed out and depressed. The things weren't going the way I wanted to them. I feel your frustration, by the way, commenters, as an angry young man myself, formerly. And the anger had grinded me down for years. I mean, I was angry for a long effing time about my lot in life. I thought I was smart enough and talented enough. I wasn't getting the things I was entitled to as a great creative. And nothing made me happy. And one day I realized, why am I so miserable? I'm doing this, this creative stuff to enrich myself and make myself famous. Ultimately, why am I doing it? I asked myself, and it's to make me happy. But I'm not happy. And maybe that's not the way to make myself happy. And then, I know you're going to laugh again, I was watching Seinfeld. This was back in the 90s. And George Costanza came up with his idea in one of the episodes that every decision he ever made was wrong, so the opposite had to be true. So I took a page out of that and I said, my problem is I'm negative about everything. What if I was positive about everything? What would that be like? And I started doing that. I said, I'm going to force myself to be positive about everything. I'm going to force myself that if something happens if somebody doesn't live up to my expectations, or I feel like I've been shortchanged or whatever, my first thought won't be like, hey, you ripped me off, a-hole. My first thought's going to be, what happened here? Maybe this guy just made an honest mistake. Maybe he actually intended to do something nice for me, and it just got messed up. And when I started doing that, things changed. I felt a weight lift off me like you wouldn't believe. And I fell back a couple of times, but mostly I went forward with being positive. And I started looking at situations different, right? I realized that being negative never helped me. So, for instance, if you're at a restaurant and the waiter brings you a bad plate of food, it's not that you wouldn't say, hey, could I get another plate of food? It's just that you would be positive about it, right? You would assume, oh, hey, I don't mean to bother you, but this hamburger isn't quite what I want. Would it be okay to get a different hamburger? It's not quite cooked the way I wanted. Would you mind looking into that? And because I don't think, I know you didn't do it on purpose. Like, that was the attitude I would have. And when I did that, people were way nicer to me because they could hear the bad news, but delivered in a positive way. And then they were more willing to help me. And, when I write about one of the characters in the Pineys, Hemingway, he just kind of haplessly drifts through life and things always work out for him. And when I started acting positively, that started to happen to me. Things really started to work out for me. I mean, in weird ways. Now, yesterday I was complaining I dropped my phone, and I did, and I cracked my screen right there. But, about a week prior to that, my girlfriend had an extra phone she had been given on a business trip that she never used, and she gave me the phone, and now I have an excuse to switch to that phone. So I'm probably going to switch to the new phone, get a new carrying case, which I needed for a while, probably have a better phone. I don't know. But I kind of trust now the process of life. Yeah, some things are going to happen, but if you face those problems with a positive attitude, you're probably going to solve them relatively quickly. I mean, I've had problems on the road, I'm not getting any younger. Sometimes I'm loading up my car, and maybe I've pulled my back a couple of times loading up my books. I can't tell you how many people are just like, oh, hey, you need some help with that? And they'll just help me with my books, and I'm on my way. I went to Little Mill Country Club the other night, and I had eaten some amount of dinner, but I still was kind of hungry. And the woman who ran the event, I had gotten there super early because I was a little nervous about performing there. And she said, you want some food? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. What do you got? And she hooked me up with an amazing cheesesteak and fries. You know how I love my fries. Oh, it was fabulous. And I had just enough time to eat it and relax. So I had this great cheesesteak and an iced tea. It was like my favorite meal. Cheesesteak, iced tea, and really good fries. It was delicious. She didn't charge me. I left $5 for the waitress who brought it. She handed it me back. Oh, no, we don't take tips here. I'm like, you sure? And she's like, no, it's fine. And then I sold a bunch of books. It was a great night. It was a great night. Now, I could have let my attitude ruin that night. I could have come in there with a sour expression on my face. The woman probably wouldn't have offered me food at all. You gotta be positive about things and trust that you will figure this all out. Now, initially, it'll be frustrating. I know it's frustrating not to have a girl in your life if you really want a girl. Yeah, I've been there. I know it's frustrating. Hey, you want a place, your own place, your house, or whatever it is you want. Been there too. But, you might have to wait. You might get lucky and land a great job. I had a friend, he was in film school, and eventually after struggling for a while, he decided to. He had a temp job where he learned computer code, and then he transitioned into being a computer guy, where he makes like a pretty good living. And as a film guy, he couldn't afford a house and a wife and a kid. Now he's got it all. Now he's got a wife, a kid, a house. This is actually his second house. And now he's not really doing film anymore, but he seems pretty happy. And one could say, I mean, he did some films. He got to do it. Wasn't like he's not dead. He could retire and maybe do some films on the side. But the film industry changed a lot since he jumped ship and got into computers. So, he might do a Kickstarter when he's in his 60s after his kid's out of college and do some kind of short avant-garde film that gets him all kinds of awards. Who knows? He's doing okay for himself. Doing very well, I would say, actually. And you just don't know when you're going to land sometimes. I didn't think I would end up back doing Jersey Devil stuff. I read about the Jersey Devil when I was in middle school. I didn't think it would become my life, my work. I didn't know what I was going to do when I was in middle school. But as it turns out, I'm going to tell people about the Jersey Devil. So, Gen Z, calm down. Number one. Number two, be positive. Try to be positive. Just trust me on this. I know the temptation is to tell everybody they suck. I love doing that. I did it for many, many years. But trust me, don't tell people they suck. Turn that on its head and think to yourself, why is this person awesome? Why is this person awesome? He made a mistake maybe, but why is he awesome? Maybe he's so awesome he just made a mistake in an attempt to be even more awesome. So that's what I think about Carl. I don't hate Carl. I think Carl's trying to be awesome. I think maybe he's gone down a wrong road, but maybe in the end it'll work out. I have to give him that credit. He's not a dumb guy. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe he can use Marxist tactics in order to save his country and then immediately stop and get all the people around him to stop. I'm worried they can't, but maybe he can. I don't know. I think the first sign of maturity is admitting you don't know everything. So, commenters, especially the Gen Z, you don't know everything. But I hope it all works out for you. Anyhow, that's it for me, Tony D, Little Joan, and the other barky guest dog, Stella. Whew, she's wound up today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.